Hello, Bill Terra here. Over the past 5 years, I've discussed the issue of veganism within macrobiotics with many students and clients. On several occasions, I've given presentations with our annual macrobiotic teachers meetings in Europe. My observation was that those two philosophies were not only compatible, but essential for the stated macrobiotic vision of a healthy and peaceful world. Veganism and macrobiotics are both philosophies. Neither of them is a diet, but both of them have been defined in that way. The macrobiotic philosophy aims to understand natural rhythms of nature, and the goal of macrobiotics is creating balance in our life. Both Osawa and his students applied macrobiotic principles to understanding health and nutrition. Their definition of health included a healthy mind, body, and spirit. Part of that development is the refining of our ethics and a sense of justice. So what does veganism have to do with that? Well, veganism is a moral code. It's simple and direct. It states that sentient creatures must be respected and cannot be owned or used for personal pleasure or convenience. They have a life of their own, and they're not here for our use and amusement. Nonviolence and justice lie at the very core of this philosophy. It's not a diet, but it does have implications about what we eat. True vegans will not eat, wear, or use any animal products. There have been many interpretations of how that ethic can be applied to what we eat, but it's not an approach to nutrition. This reality has not stopped people from claiming they eat a vegan diet. It's created a rush of new products and dietary approaches that have very little to do with the philosophy. I see references to people who are vegan before 6, or mostly vegan, or even veganish. These are simply silly. What does this have to do with macrobiotics, though? Well, macrobiotic principles can be a useful tool in linking nutritional science, the wisdom of traditional approaches to diet, and the realities of modern social and environmental concerns. In the last session of this series, I put forward some ideas that I thought were very necessary in consideration of developing a nutritional theory for the future. One of those areas is our relationship with animals. All life on the planet has suffered by our ill-conceived and violent ideas about nature. It's interesting that our choices of food have emerged as a crucial tipping point in the ecological crisis we face. But the good news is that we can stop the damage done to nature very simply. Of course, there are many factors that contribute to environmental destruction, but animal agriculture, the production of animals for meat, dairy, eggs, and even fish farms, joined with our destructive approach to agriculture, lie at the foundations of this catastrophe. It's all about food. If we stopped eating animals and using animal products, the world would be a better and healthier place for ourselves and future generations. This is not a theory, it's a fact. The question is why we don't do just that. Well, macrobiotic practitioners have stated several concerns or objections about supporting an animal-free approach, so I wanted to talk about a few of those here. First, let's talk about nutritional science. This one is straightforward. Hundreds of studies by a host of international and nutritional and public health institutions have shown that a diverse vegan diet is not only healthy, but often promotes reversal of illness. The science is clear. There is no need of animal-sourced food in a healthy diet. Macrobiotics is certainly a diverse diet without any added animal protein. But it seems that the protein issue still gets people nervous. The fact is that protein deficiency is commonly due to a simple lack of food. It's a symptom of starvation. As I said in session 5, we get abundant amino acids in a diverse macrobiotic diet. There's an interesting tendency within macrobiotics to make sweeping statements regarding the vegan diet. Well, there isn't a vegan diet. There are a variety of influencers who promote dietary patterns, and there are many vegans that eat a terrible diet. we need to be careful when we group all under the same umbrella. It's exactly the same when somebody says that they once knew a macrobiotic person who was very unhealthy. We usually need more information. The next issue is tradition. When we reflect on food traditions from around the world, we surely know that they were a direct response to environmental conditions such as soil, water, altitude, all kinds of weather, along with developed technologies. This is fundamental to the ecological macrobiotic worldview. Food traditions have always been a question of food availability, environment, and cultural development. Basing nutritional theory on our real or imagined ancestors is often interesting, but not always helpful. They're only important if we want to duplicate those cultural and environmental features of the people studied. Then there's the tradition of macrobiotic culture. In any cultural group, leaders are mimicked. The fact that Micho was fond of fish is no more important than the fact that he smoked. The fact that Osawa included animal quality foods in some of his diets is only significant if we also account for the fact that he deemed animal protein as inferior and that eating it was only for pleasure. We cannot remove those teachings from their cultural and historical situations. Respecting the teachings of these men and the courage of their commitment to a better world does not mean wholesale acceptance of everything that came out of their mouth. If macrobiotics is to respond to present social issues, critical thinking is required. The physical and social environment we live in has changed dramatically in the last century. Osawa laid the foundations of macrobiotics in the 1930s. It is the reality of the present and not the past that we must make balance with. It is the present that produces the challenges to our personal health as well as the broader issues of the world that we live in. And then there's the curious story of the fish. In macrobiotics, the idea that fish have a simpler nervous system and a more primitive structure served as a rationale for consuming them as the acceptable animal. Part of the reason that fish became a mainstay of macrobiotic practice was cultural. They're the most popular animal quality foods in Japanese culture, and they reflected the eating traditions of our teachers. Recent research shows that the lack of neural complexity does not demonstrate a lack of sentience. Every fisherman knows this. Fish fight to stay alive. They thrash in pain when they're caught. Every year, fish stocks are ruined to a devastating degree. The latest estimates are that fish stocks will run out in 30 years. Every fish eaten contributes to the problem. Any lack of attention to this is to contribute to a major ecological disaster. Another old reason that gets trotted out, and anytime suggested change is requested or thought about, is that everything is macrobiotic. A confusing statement for anyone exploring macrobiotics for health purposes, but I agree with that. Using yin and yang is a way of talking about objects, actions, or ideas in comparison with other objects, actions, or ideas. It's a system of measurement. It is more about quantity, not quality. Classifying something as more yin or yang has no inherent value without a defined intention. In that sense, there are no values. In terms of yin and yang, a piece of cheese is just a piece of cheese, and a piece of tofu is just a piece of tofu. In other words, everything simply is what it is. If a person wants to lower cholesterol, then eliminating fats is a good idea, and yin and yang may come in handy in classification of different kinds of fats. The value of recovering health and staying alive, that's the issue. If we place a value on health of society and the environment as well as individual well-being, those values will provide us with a gauge that informs our decisions. I've heard it claimed that veganism promotes exclusivity, but we're faced with some of the same challenges that many of us faced in the 1960s. The food we wanted was not readily available, it was socially inconvenient, and people thought it was weird, repulsive, or even unpatriotic. We persevered regardless and opened a new chapter in the social understanding of food. Every radical change in social evolution has required a high degree of commitment to actions that could be seen as eccentric, laughable, or even dangerous. That process lies at the base of all cultural evolution. Avoiding animal quality food is not exclusive. I'm quite happy to eat with people who decide to eat differently from me. I never produce any critical observations about their choices. I don't get upset. Other people will ask questions of me, or they won't. It's usually those who eat the modern diet that get most upset about somebody eating differently. They would not become upset unless they knew that there were better choices. I'm happy with my choices. Comments that veganism is too extreme from macrobiotic people are just laughable. For a person eating a macrobiotic diet, going vegan means basically giving up fish. We're not the victims here. Dietary rigidity is not being able to change. In reality, people who follow the modern diet are the most rigid and extreme. They're totally resistant to trying anything new and addicted to poor quality, environmentally damaged, disease-producing junk based firmly on the death of other creatures. What we choose to eat not only demonstrates our judgment, it educates it. The ethic of the food we eat is a profound expression of our physical, mental, and spiritual vision of life. It's not a coincidence that the foods that promote personal health also have economic and social and environmental, even psychological and spiritual advantages. That's what we might call natural justice. When we view these factors as side benefits, we miss the point. When personal action is a reflection of natural justice, a state of biological integrity is achieved. This is the condition that we call health, biological integrity. The lack of compassion for life other than our own, the lack of appreciation for nature, the fear of change, and frantic searches for instant gratification are all woven into our food choices. Unraveling them is fundamental to creating a human ecology that can allow us to reach our full humanity. To me, that's the essence of macrobiotics. I want to thank you for listening. Please join Marlene and I in the creation of a healthy and peaceful world for humans and non-humans alike. Join in the evolution. Be well. Bye now.